So what I'm going to do is help to better understand the process of the teaching that I give. I give a teaching that's shocking. A lot of people don't want to hear it, and a lot of people think it's a little bit too dramatic. It's a little exaggerated. Talking about demons and talking about things of this nature. And then what causes those things, and I talk about that. I talk about how there's pedophilia and how it's in the Catholic Church, and that it's part of a very large satanic process that goes on Earth. It's the foundation of things that happen behind the scene that allows the world that we're in, which is called capitalism, that process, that allows us all to believe that we should be in this pyramid of capitalism. And what that looks like, imagine it. You've got the very base of it. You got this circle. This isn't a pyramid that looks like a pyramid. This looks like the Tower of Babylon. And as you go up it, from the very bottom, it's not sitting on earth. It's sitting on top of people. And those people are the workers, the laborers, the people who do all the work, all of it. And they make things, and they do things, they provide things, they're the industry that creates all of this. And then on top of that is another group of people, and I'll show you a little image of it.
Firstly, we had this article. From the world. Bring an interview with Robert Downey Jr. on the same subject. Right, firstly we had this article from the World Press Centre titled
Okay, so that's the image. And on the bottom of it, you have all the laborers. These are, they're the people who provide farming. They're the people who provide products and all the things that go on in the world. And then they're the people who want to eat. They're the people who provide the food. And they're the people who do all that. And then there's the people above that. And these are the people who eat. These are the people who go to the restaurants and have all the money, and they're usually the business owners, the next level of capitalism. And they're capitalizing on labor. And labor is a human thing. It's human. And this is God in the machine, and you're in it. You're either one stage of this or you're on the other stage of this. Somewhere along the line, you are in the machine. And it's based on capitalism. And that's why there's so many different beliefs in Marxism or communism or socialism and all kinds of things, because this particular thing sucks. This is something you don't want to get into. But it is one thing that allows you to literally go up a ladder. You can get from one place to the next. The person on the bottom is told that they can become the person on the top, which is the president of the United States, or a king of the United States. That's the top of the pyramid. These are the people in charge. Then the next level down is the clergy. And these people you believe in. You put your faith in them. And this churns the motor, keeps things going. And then you got people just below that, and they shoot at you. They're the military. They're there to shoot at you. And you're not thinking, oh, they're here to shoot me. But that is their job. When you get a president like we do today, then you get a president who tells you what capitalism means, and that I have military that will shoot you and put you back to work, because labor is the most important thing. Our economy, our labor, they're in charge of capitalism. And this is the greatest vehicle of suffering. But in order for this to happen, It requires sex magic and money magic. It requires Satanism. This isn't God in the machine, just in God in the machine of greed and things like that. It's literally the process of a satanic outcome, a symptom inside of people when they practice this coven of Satanism. Yeah? And you don't know what's going on. Yeah? Yeah? So here's a little thing that I told you before that in Hollywood, it is the largest group of people who allow themselves to be taken over by demons. And once you do that, what happens? You know, the demons tell you, well, now you need to carry on ceremonies so I can be vitalized. I can have more power. To have more power, you need to sacrifice lives. You need to drink the blood of a baby. You need to eat that baby. You need to go through these things and carry out these acts in order to get this capitalism to work. And that's in Hollywood. And that's in the rich and the famous. Yeah. So here's someone we know.
Downey Jr. on the same subject. Right, firstly we had this article from the World Press Centre titled Mel Gibson, Hollywood is a den of parasites who feast on blood of kids. Hollywood studios are drenched in the blood of innocent children, according to Mel Gibson, who claims the consumption of baby blood is so popular in Hollywood that it basically operates as a currency of its own. Hollywood elites are an enemy of mankind, continually acting contrary to our best interests and breaking every God-given taboo known to man, including the sanctity of children, Mel Gibson said in London, where he's promoting his role in Daddy Home 2, his most prominent on-screen role in years. It's an open secret in Hollywood. These people have their own religious and spiritual teachings and their own social and moral frameworks. They have their sacred texts. They are sick, believe me, and they couldn't be more at odds with what America stands for. Mel Gibson appeared on the Graham Norton show on the BBC on Friday, and he schooled shocked guests about the real nature of Hollywood elites in the green room backstage after his appearance, explaining that he spent the last 10 years working on my own ideas outside of the Hollywood system after being blacklisted by Hollywood in 2006 for sharing opinions about the industry and the world that run counter to liberal orthodoxy. Gibson said, "I don't know how to break it to you gently. Hollywood is institutionalized pedophilia. They are using and abusing kids. They churn through a huge amount of kids every year. Their spiritual beliefs, if you can call them that, direct them to harvest the energy of the kids. They feast on this stuff and they thrive on it," the Hacksaw Ridge director said. What do I mean? This isn't some kind of artistic abstraction. They harvest the blood of children. They eat their flesh. They believe this gives them life force. If the child was suffering in body and psyche before it died, they believe this gives them extra life force. There is a creative and loving force inside most of us that guides us through life. These people don't have this. For them, it's the opposite. According to Mel Gibson, who has spent 30 years in and out of the Hollywood system, the industry elites thrive on pain, trauma, stress, abuse, and suffering. Hollywood is drenched in the blood of innocent children. For a long time, all the references to pedophilia and cannibalism were symbolic or elusive, but I was personally introduced to the practice in the early 2000s. I can talk about this now because these people, the executives, they're dead now. The blood of a sexually abused infant is considered highly enriched and is highly prized. The money changing hands, the favours, the kickbacks, you have no idea. Babies are a high functioning currency all of their own. Babies are their premium land of high grade caviar, cocaine, diamond, steak. But according to Gibson, this isn't a flavour of the month perversion, popular among men and women who have grown bored of standard issue sins. This isn't anything new. If you do some research, you will find it's a metaphysical, alchemical phenomenon, and you can find it behind the scenes in all the dark eras in history. It's a dark, multidimensional occult art and practice used by secret societies in the last few hundred years for social programming and mind control, and raised to a zenith by Hollywood in America in our era. And the World Prayer Centre exhorts us to pray. God is exposing the sexual abuse and harassment of women by powerful men in Hollywood, the rest of media, business and politics in recent weeks all across the USA. Let's pray that those who prey on children will be similarly exposed and brought down, and that societies around the world that have allowed such dark, unthinkable, vile practices to go on will be impelled to arrest and punish such abusers. Pray for the protection and release of children from such horror.
There we go. Yep. And that's the truth. Yeah. And that's why I always say, if you know me, my biggest thing is that I scream about the children. And you do not know what's going on with the children. You don't know. Yeah. I do know. Yeah. I hear it. I have to deal with it. I deal with it with Rinpoches. I deal with it with priests. I deal with it with people on my own street, in my own life. Yeah. I've walked through it. Yeah. And I don't run away from it. So by having this scenario in the world, there's no way it's not revealed to me. And just like you don't want to hear it. Just like you'd rather, that was old news, not something going on this second. Newborn babies being molested and then murdered and then filleted and their blood sold. Yeah. And it's a very highly profitable situation. Yeah. And in the covenant of the scenario, there's groups of people who really want to do this. Mothers who want to give birth. Fathers who want this to happen. So they focus on having children, but they don't keep these children. Yeah. And it's really easy to hide pregnancy and have that birth take place and never see a child. Never know that it exists. Really easy. Yeah. So easy, it's happening all throughout Hollywood. And you go to the same locations and they've got people from Arabia or Afghanistan or Pakistan, women who are held inside of houses, imprisoned for 10, 20 years under the same kind of mind. Yeah. A completely dark, evil mind of either slavery or moving on to this dark force. Yeah. But all of that collectively makes manifest as symptoms. Yeah. So all the things that happen that are bad things are happening because of these magical ceremonies. And the powers that they get, they're taking terrestrial forces and bringing them up and into people so that they elect people like this president. Yeah? And they're blinded by blind faith. Yeah? And it allows people all throughout Hollywood, all throughout, you watch these movies, you literally watch these movies. You sit there and watch, people ripping guts out of people or eating people and drinking their blood. One TV series after another. Masses of millions and millions of people. Yeah? Twilight. Yeah, a romantic movie? Twilight of vampires? Most of the actors in that are dead today. The two main actors in that are dead, died recently. Yeah. And they were only in their 30s. Not anything good comes of this. Yeah. This is very dark, process because we have a lot of capitalism, a lot of materialism. Yeah. And these evil witches, link on to people with money. It's the biggest thing. If you can find a person with power, money, then you seduce them, and you take all that power that would go off, into the system of saving humanity, making good ideas happen, the blessing of God coming into your life. Well, what happens if a witch comes into the life of the person in charge of something of that? Things can get really crazy. Ideas can get far off and crazy. Yeah. People will die, following that process as it takes a left-hand spin into, thinking that this world is going to be destroyed, because that's what the witch is putting out. There's an apocalypse coming, and that just overshadows people, puts people into a state, that this is real. This world is not long to last. We better head for another planet. And that just wastes our time. It wastes our money. It puts our intentions toward really greedy people who are doing it not for anybody but for the material minerals they would get from these planets, and it making them the first trillionaire on Earth because they made it there. That's why Elon Musk is very much against the guy who does Amazon, because they're competing as to who's going to be the first trillionaire. Elon's saying, oh, this guy, he's doing it as a monopoly. And we have no real reason as to why he's going to Mars. But everything he does as Amazon is a monopoly, so he needs to stop it. That's what Elon Musk is saying. What? Why are you saying that? This is just another person who also wants to go to Mars. Also wants to bring people to the space station. Also wants to do all these great things. Well, it sounds like he wants to monopolize. And yet that's his complaint. So a lot of times when the demons enter, you have no idea that they're speaking, because it's not you. What gets said and what, all the things that get put in motion is not the original person. It now becomes, a layer of scenarios and circumstances that are not blessed by God. And oriented toward competition and disastrous outcomes, which slows down humanity's growth in the new group of world servers. So there's things like that go on. And then there's things like this that Mel Gibson is talking about. All these children. We haven't seen anything yet, because by the time the president is not reelected and he's allowed to be a civilian, and we already know that Biden, if he's elected, he won't just let the guy off and make it so that any charges that go against him are null and void. He won't do that. So we know that that there's going to be this process of pedophiles who are going to be overturned, whether it be the Prince of England, and who in England wants to see that? Nobody wants to see that, but he's right there, pictures, videos, everything. Long-term history, so it's going to come out. But so is Donald Trump. And he raped little girls. I don't know what all the other ones did, General rule, they were 16 and above. But his was 13. Because she was the same age as Ivanka. The one that he's highly attracted to now, his oldest daughter. So that whole process is linked to the process of this sex magic and money magic. It's just out of control. So over the next 8 to 10 and 12 months, as humanity is purging, going through this process of trying to deal with their own emotions, deal with their own ability to make decisions in life, oust out this president, try and make some proper decisions, try and get past this virus and not die, try not to harm another person just because you didn't do the right thing, because how hard is it going to be in your life if you go off and do the wrong things and you go back and you're the only one who had that virus when you went into that store, and the lady who took your money is dead now because she was 65 years old, and the last person was him who gave her the virus, and he becomes aware of this, or she. Yeah, we get a conscience of awareness over the fact that we do cause other people to get this virus, even though we may not have symptoms. We may have knowledge that we have a positive virus, but in our own conscience, are we going to allow ourselves to do the right thing? With this energy going on, all that's moving us, it takes the soul. And all of this has to come out in the open, even though you don't want to hear it. You don't want to see it. It has to come out in the open. We have to stop it. The only way we can stop it is that we have to get past the blind faith, because we're surrounded by the desire to have to make money. All these people in that bizarre scenario in Hollywood are all there to become famous and to make the highest amount of check that you get in a job for doing a little to nothing for 6 weeks, 2 months in a movie, and you get $5 to $10 million if you're a primary actor. That's just amazing. And all those people, all those actors are right on top of it. They get to be chummy with all the football players and basketball players. And they're of the same rich status and of the same energy. They desire this competition in their life. They desire boxing. They have to have boxing. So it's this capitalistic, evil process that fosters other things to go on in order to allow more capitalistic behavior to go on. Boxing, dog fights, cockfights, killing babies, sacrificing human beings. It's just you start here at this ceremonial level, which is done in private, and it's done in order to get the power, to get the money, to get the job. Not just to fit in, but to be part of a satanic involvement to control the world. The whole world of God. Literally. So there isn't much that isn't involved in the process of people being under, at the bottom of this thing, holding this thing up through their labor. And the only thing this president and all these people are talking about is whether or not you are going to go back to work. And if you took the time to find out you didn't need that job, you need far less money, you need a much smaller house, and you're going to be given a year to a year and a half of layoff time due to the reality of this virus. There may be presidents, there may be governors who are saying, okay, it's time for you to go back to work, but they legally can't make you go back to work when there's a virus and they don't have testing and they don't make it possible for you to feel safe to go back to work. There's basic laws of human rights, and you can get by, on that reality. You're not taking advantage of, I don't ever want to work again. But you got to take the time to figure out ways to not be in the system. Don't be one of those people who's a fat cat sitting at the table in the restaurant. And don't be the next one up to where you're the freaking military and you're out ready to shoot anybody they tell you to shoot. Don't be in that one. Don't go up into the clergy to where you lie to everybody. Yeah, and you carry on every unspeakable sin you can ever imagine and get away with it. You can drink, you can smoke, you can do all the things that they tell you, they should be telling you not to do, and they don't. Yeah? They give no guidance whatsoever on how to be a good, holy person. Yeah? None. Because they have no idea. Yeah? Zero. So then you get to the next level, and you've got people who are the king and the queen and the presidents and the governors, and they're all just, you elect these people. Imagine that. It's bad enough you're in this scenario, but you actually have to write down on a ballot, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I want to continue this. Okay, I'll continue my taxes. I'll pay my tax on everything. I'll pay my taxes on my shoes. I'll pay my taxes on the road. I'll pay my taxes on gasoline, even though I have an electric car. I'll pay my taxes on everything. Yeah? And then I got income tax. Oh, yeah, sure, take that too. Imagine. Then you got unemployment tax. Oh, yeah, take that too. Chances that you're not going to get any unemployment if you keep having people like Trump, because they're just going to take it away and use it for military. Yeah. And they'll take away food stamps and all the service things that go on with the people that are holding this whole thing up. All the people who are holding 99.9%, only 2% of this earth is the people above, and they're all living off of these people, which are slaves, but they're slaved by magic. Yeah. They're pushed into a false sense of hope and a false sense of security. Yeah. Yeah. And it's total sham. We're not giving anybody the opportunity to learn how to build a house when they're a kid, or learn how to garden. Yeah. Or learn all the pitfalls of having babies. Yeah. All the way from being a midwife and witnessing the whole thing at least 20 or 30 times before you're 18 years old, and then witness babysitting, by doing that for 5 years, from every degree of babysitting, yeah? And then you move on to education, and you're the educator. You're in 10th grade, you're educating 3rd grade kids, 4th grade kids, because it's just more natural for our peers to be, because we naturally follow our peers. It's what is the biggest downfall, because our peers do not give directions to have jobs, to be a counselor or a guidance, and they all want to do that. That's why there's all these groups of these kids that are cliques, because they're completely unused. Yeah? They're just a waste of time and energy, and they have no ability to put themselves into effect. And yet if they give them an opportunity, they could probably become engineers and philanthropers and anything that they want to do if given the opportunity. Yeah. So done young, yeah, if that's done right, yeah, then our economy changes dramatically. We when we meet someone, we both have skills to build a house. Yeah, whether, doesn't matter who you're with, because we all went through the same education. We're all plumbers. Yeah, we all know how everything works. Yeah, we fix those things. We maintain those things. Yeah, we're not so focused on trigonometry as we are as a square root or an angle that puts our plot together properly. Yeah, and angles the roof properly. Yeah, all those things that are part of practicality that we're going to need in life. Yeah, if we get to learn those things as a child growing up, then we eliminate all these things above us. Yeah, we're not really in a position to where we need a lot of police. We're not in a position to where we need a lot of clergy. Yeah, we're not in a position to where we need any military at all. Yeah. Yeah, because we're all free-thinking, loving people, yeah, that carry out creative actions and is able to fulfill our own personal needs. So we don't have in our mind the delusion of sitting on some level and having other people doing it for us, yeah, as though we're going to be in that stratosphere of life, yeah. If we take care of these things when we're young, then all of that becomes part of our real reality, our own personal reality. We know how to govern our life. We're on the very top, yeah. We know our relationship to God. We're right there. We've been taught self-defense, so we don't need military, you know. Come at my ass, you're on the ground. You know, it's just the way it is. I got past all that. I went through martial arts. Every person can go through all this, and you don't walk around afraid anymore. You know, someone taps you on the shoulder and they want to do something to you. It's very easy to put them on the ground and stop them from doing that anymore. It's unexpected because people are not trained to defend themselves, and we should. Because we have these other stratosphere scenarios inside of society, like the military or the police, to take care of those needs. Because we're so incapable of defending. We're just like, when we're only 30 years old. You know, we can barely get out of a chair. You know, I don't know. You know, I'm going to go eat a hot dog, you know, about 10 of them, you know, and just be as sluggish as possible. Yeah, so there's nothing that we're trained, nothing that we're taught, nothing that instills us to get out of those things. Yeah. So this all can happen by eliminating these magic processes, these satanic events that you don't know is going on. Yeah. And the only way they can be altered is by soul therapy. Yeah. By doing soul therapy for planet Earth, it reaches in and it causes Mel Gibson in the middle of the group to have to live a horrible life, being restricted by everybody, being treated badly by everybody, never having a good relationship. You know, all these horrible things go on in his life, but at the same time, he is there to see the truth, you know, and he's one out of a million, you know. Then I've got a couple of guys, you know, maybe 10 or 12, that are from the process of this, you know, and they've gone through the Michael Jackson thing. They've gone through all these pedophile scenarios and all the women we know about, yeah, and we're just beginning to find out about all the guys who's had that go on. And now we're going to find out that this is a very big ongoing satanic process. It's just, these are personal things like rape or molestation or pedophilia. That's a personality thing. You could deal with that. That's copable, yeah? But you cannot cope with the fact of someone drinking blood from a dead baby and then eating it in order to gain power. That it's a phenomenon, a mysticism that they live in their life. They live this in their life. And they get up high in that process to where they're in a certain group of people that know all the links, all the people who's making the babies, all the people who's providing the blood, how much it costs. It's got to be fresh. It's got to be in the moment. And ceremonies have to be ongoing daily for these people to be quenched in the process of their magic. This is lifestyle. Yeah? Extreme evil lifestyle. Yeah? And they carry this on. And that affects, this is people who are now channeling demons while they're acting. So the words you hear are coming from the demons, from the blood of the babies. The empowerments of their creativity, their muse, comes from that. Yeah? And nobody's actually sitting in the back room writing script who's not a demon channeler. Yeah? Nobody in the whole thing, yeah, is not a demon channeler. They're all in that process. So the movies that you watch, the things that you find interesting, even God emailed me or something like that, yeah? Watch it. It's about an atheist with a homosexual sister who can't really get it together in that way, so she's dying of cancer. You know? Total emotional misfit bullshit. Having nothing to do with Christ, having nothing to do with God, constantly trying to disprove that it's even God on the other line. So they're looking for an individual who's doing it. Yeah, that's what the show's about. Rather than having the revelation of the fact of this cosmic event, which is impossible unless you're doing these bloodletting ceremonies. And you believe those things perform the magic and the reasoning behind them going about thinking it's someone who has the power to do such things. Yeah, to carry out all those events, all those relationships. And they still go one episode after another. Oh, it's still not God. How can it not be God? Yeah. His father's even a priest. Yeah. Yeah. And yet people who are watching it are all watching it because they're waiting for it to disprove God. How can these ceremonies, how can these powerful mystical processes, because they have all these shows about mystical processes, superhuman beings from mystical origins, yeah? Whether it be your superheroes or your Avengers or your, all these different things that come in, and, you have no idea that these are all just fantasy, fictitious things that will never happen. Ever. But they're demons in their magic of identity, just like Harry Potter, yeah? So that you can identify with a delusionary, fictitious reality. And then you can go crazy on yourself. You can go, I'm going to be a superhuman. Maybe I'll fly someday. Maybe I'll get a special suit. Maybe, these things will happen. Maybe they'll start doing a chemistry thing. Maybe, a spider will bite me and all of a sudden I'll be Spider-Man, shit, it happened on TV. It happened in the movies, And the channeling effect that comes into it orients people to believe in it more than they should. Yeah? Movies should be a detached reality. We should know it the moment we're watching it. Yeah? Just like reading a book. This is a fantasy. This is melodramatic. This is, it's certainly not based on truth. Yeah? If it's based on truth, you read it differently. Yeah? Yeah? You're going to apply that truth to a better understanding of something. But most everything is fictitious and things of that nature. And if you study all the way back from poems to all kinds of things, they have weaved within them very dark things. Poems for children. Yeah? Yeah. All, itsy bitsy spider, Listen to the whole thing. Yeah? And it ain't good for any kid to be saying itsy bitsy spider. Yeah. Or Jack and Jill. Any of them. Even the relationship of the witch, of Hansel and Gretel. They were going to be eaten. Yeah. Yeah. A true story. Yeah. And yet the relationship of just saying it and putting it out there, it's implied fictitious. Not a real thing. Yeah. So they give you all kinds of real things. Vampires, people who eat people, the Night of the Living Dead, zombie world, the apocalypse, one episode after another, after another, after another, after another. All implying if they do this and do it correctly, that will be the outcome. Even in England, they put money aside and put a program together. What happens when there is a Walking Dead and you can't kill these people and they're vampires and they eat people? What do we do? So they put together a program to start studying and researching how to defend themselves from the Walking Dead. That's, this has been going on a long time. When we're taking the curses that have been put into the magic And we see that it could turn into its truth. And we could start watching vampires or, people that are the walking dead who are reanimated. Yeah. And they are dead. They're possessed. Yeah. All these horrible scenarios, that play out are part of a process of expectation in this mystical phenomenon that they do all this for. They don't just do it for, money or greed, but they do it for another mystical phenomenon. They want immortality. They want power over getting old. They want longevity of beauty. So you can study this and you'll find an enormous number of women have been using the blood of young girls in baths, taking baths in blood, drinking the blood. Enormous. You can go back through history, all the way back. You can go to the Chinese history of emperors and their wives. You can go back to the Egyptians and their relationship and their cookbooks on how to cook children. In Egypt, that's the history of Egypt, is that when the end of Egyptian Nile and all of that civilization ended, they found cookbooks hidden in the dirt and in the rubble. And they were all based on how to eat babies, how to cook them and prepare them. So this process that we're in is a process that's been going on since the beginning of time, and there is a plan involved in it. It's to move humanity toward these horrible Walking Dead-like scenarios, to where we have this capitalistic reality, and everybody who's underneath feels the need to be underneath. Can't see that they're inside of a system. They can't see that they're living their life for their mortgage, and they're never going to pay it off. And they're under an illusion that when they do sell it, they're going to get more money for it. All these fictitious things, all based on non-fact, total illusion. And those processes that move people to think, wow, this is how it works. I'm just going to get my credit card and put a lot of credit on it, or I'm going to go and lease a car. Therefore, I don't have to put all that money onto a car, and I can drive around in a really nice car. But I've got a $220 debt every month I got to take care of. And I got a $4,000 debt every month for my house I got to take care of. Now I got insurance on my house, and I got insurance on my car. I have to take care of those things. I have to every month, or they're going to take my car away and my house. So now I've signed a contract with money. And I am obligated. If something goes wrong, I lose my job, I lose my salary, I get sick, anything. The house goes on fire, all the normal things in life. There's nothing there to back you up. You can be completely devastated. And then you go through this process of thinking, well, everybody's going, well, you need to save money. You need to make sure you put a lot of money so that when you turn 60 and 70 and 80, you'll have a stockpile of money. But who can do that? The reality is that's all fantasy. There's another level of people who have really good jobs, and in those jobs, part of the money you get in your paycheck goes towards savings. And you can afford that sort of thing. And you got such a good job that they set you up in that process, so that now you have a retirement plan, and you have all these things, and RONYCK, whatever you call those things, all those kind of stuff. You get up another level and you get involved in that. And it gives you another false sense of security. But you look at all the people, when you walk out of that office and you go to the industrial area where everybody's working, none of those people has any of those benefits. They're not going to save money. The best they're going to get is unemployment insurance that's going to be taken out of their income and put aside, and if they ever are unemployed, they get to draw on that. Yeah, that's it for them. Yeah, and the same thing with people who retire in old age. You know, $800 a month. Yeah, it doesn't put you into any real reality. Yeah, because everything that's being impressed upon is unreal. It's delusionary. Yeah, it impacts every living human being. Yeah, so we have an opportunity to change our lifestyle so that we're not seduced by the ongoing magic that's going on by these sex magicians. Yeah, because it's that energy. Yeah, and if you step back and go, well, tiny home, gonna be a monk or a nun, or I'm just gonna go get in a van and head to the forest and live off of nothing. Yeah, and see if I can do that for the rest of my life. Yeah, and a lot of people are doing this. Yeah, and it's those activities, people who are really getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're closing the door to the system. And they're not impressed by fear anymore. All these people that get in their campers and go out there and they go up there and they ask them, aren't you afraid to be out here all alone, like this? And they go, no, actually, I was afraid. I was really afraid. In my apartment, I was afraid. I was afraid at work. I was afraid. I was always afraid. But now that I'm here and I've got this and I own nothing, and yet I've lived a month and a half and nothing has gone wrong. And everything, every morning is easier. I'm dispelling. Yeah? And it is. They're releasing elemental shit from their house, from their apartment, from their job, from all their obligations that were stuck into their physical body that was taking up their life. And that's what they were afraid of. They had no idea that's what the fear was. That they were obligated to the devil. They sold their soul. Yay, that was a good one. They sold their soul. Yeah. So the whole influence of whether or not people get from one place to another, get from a place where they're not going up this ladder and supporting that ladder and fulfilling that ladder, is their ability to simplify themselves, to not include themselves in that ladder, to where their life is they're in charge. Yeah, they're an entrepreneur. They have their own understanding of what they're doing. They provide their own creativity. They live their day-to-day life. They choose the people that they're with. They may or may not get married. Yeah, they may or may not have children. Yeah, the whole thing. There is no energy coming from outside energy that seduces a person to live a life that they're not by dharma. If they had a free choice, they would live. Yeah, so that relationship of being able to know that these choices you could make, these things you can make, are the most important things that we need to do during the virus, because it's an opportunity time. God is doing a cleansing. Yeah, and at the end of this, in the next 6 months or so, it's going to get a whole lot weirder. Yeah, we're going to see all kinds of people go to jail, all kinds of people. Yeah, we saw the first phase of people who, were busted in Hollywood for seducing women on the couch. First phase. And that's as old as the hills. Movies are based on that one. So how did that even get this far? Yeah, impossible. You would think, everybody's going, oh, I didn't know it really happened, And yet it's in movies, it's in TV series, it's everything when it comes down to making a movie. Oh, did you do the couch thing, Yeah. Yeah. So that process is one of the first cleansings. And second cleansing is pedophilia. Yeah. Once we clear pedophilia, we find out that there are certain women inside of Hollywood that desire blood. Yeah, and they create a cult. And this orients the process of everybody creating the process. Because this is all Kali. This is it's not about male, female, but it's about witchcraft. And witches do certain things. That's their job. And they're a part of the energy of the desire body to manifest themselves as the most beautiful. Yeah, that desire body creates jealousy, enviousness. Every glamour that we've ever experienced comes from Lilith as a nature. Yeah, and when that nature goes out, it is demonically seductive, and it has magical intention behind it. So it's all done without anybody really knowing, because it's mystical, metaphysical. Yeah. So all these women are going tarot. Anybody want tarot? Yeah. Astrology. Anybody interested in astrology? Yeah. Anybody need a life counselor? Yeah. Yeah. It's like the number one job of a woman these days is to be a life counselor. Yeah. Or begin the process of initiating more and more people into feminism. And the thought that this whole thing is a lack of power in women rather than a process behind this system. This whole process behind the system, which is creating fear and many other things, but it mainly creates glamours. Yeah. So when this thing heals, it's going to heal the process of the origin of the nature, the origin of the nature. Once the origin of the nature is released, in other words, it's judged, and then it becomes the outcome of the power, and that's the male side. Yeah. So you get all these male aspects, and they're all doing their power thing, and mostly it's pedophilia and homosexuality. Yeah. Their power is in their penis. Yeah. And they're only interested in other males. Yeah. So this creates the Satan aspect. And the other one is the Lilith aspect. And Lilith, if you study it, Lilith is the goddess who kills the babies and seduces men to become warlocks. In other words, they take the vibrational energy that comes from Lilith and receive that and become a lunar lord, a powerful figure in the energy of having power. So all of a sudden, they get mannerisms and characteristics that make them look like a powerful person. So actors love this, where you literally can change your form and makeup and everything in order to become the idolized person who's idolized. Yeah. And this goes, Hollywood is like big at this, and rock and roll and all those things are based on this. So it's really the chameleon problem, the chameleon aspect of the evil spirit, that it has the ability to change its form and manifest in a seductive way. So by doing metaphysical things, you're actually changing the physical forms to become possessed by demons. So all physical forms, whether it be your socks, your shoes, your car, your house, the lawn, the way you like your lawn, the way it's pedicured, all of that is a demonic control system that moves into people, and they have no creativity whatsoever. Everybody wants to be like everybody on top all the way to the bottom. And there's no creativity whatsoever in this. It's all a set of demons. And the demons are very specific in their character. So you're going to get people who are living in an ungodly manner. Yeah? Their lifestyle is ungodly. And what would be ungodly? Well, Michael Jackson would be in an ungodly manner. You go to his house and you see all those golden statues and paintings of himself and all these things that you see that are just the most annoyingly ungodly looking things. No one would have it in their house other than a really old person, maybe in Las Vegas, that likes shit like that. Yeah. Because Las Vegas is about all these people who gather together and live in an ungodly manner. Yeah. So all the hotels are in an ungodly manner. And where did all these ungodly people like to live? They like to live in Las Vegas. And they can have all the ungodliness that they can possibly imagine. And you could buy things from there. You can buy all the statues and all the ungodly, things that you would want to get from all around the world. They will all come to Las Vegas for you, and make you feel very good about that. Yeah. So it's more about the process of closing the door, and making it possible for the amount of energy that's coming out of this, which is male and female. Yeah, it's Lilith and Lucifer. Yeah. And it's that energy that enters into people and it causes them to go through the desire body to want to do these magical ceremonies. Yeah. The more deep witch you are, the more you desire the blood. Like Cardassian. Yeah. 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 There's a whole lot about Cardassian that's involved in this process. Yeah. There's a whole lot about a number of people that's involved in this process. Yeah. Especially women who are very pretty. Yeah. Who are known as being very pretty. Yeah. Quite often they're vampires, whether it be by drinking blood or by taking the souls of other people. Yeah. By being vindictive, by lying, by destroying another person's life. Telling lies and deceiving and setting them up. Not an uncommon thing in our life, in our system. There are all kinds of people out there that do that. And that energy empowers those people, while it's disempowering another person. And at the same time, how is it these really evil people seem to live longer and look healthier than most of the people they're destroying? Yeah. It's because there's mysticism behind it. Yeah. There's a metaphysical, energetic principle in Satanism. Yeah. And it's demons. And it's those demons that vitalize people in a facade of illusion, of desire, of excitement. They get this, this process to where they have to have something or have to do something or feel that it's their destiny to have to fulfill this. Yeah. And all it is a delusion of glamour. Yeah. That gets built up in a person and they see the whole picture. They think this is it. This is what I got to do. Yeah. And that process is nothing more than their solar plex. Yeah. So it's the solar plex that is what's causing most of this process. And it's really difficult. Most people have no idea about spiritual cleansing, no idea about the chakras, no idea. We're far away from all of that. We're right in the middle of the war. We're far away from after having been healed. And now we can talk common sense together. So most of the masters are going to suffer through this thing to help me get this overwhelming scenario taken care of. So during this process, one of the biggest problems in channeling was the process in Tibetan Buddhism where they used a channel. Yeah. And they have this channel for the Dalai Lama that would give information for where to go, what to do, and all this kind of stuff. And it was a constant thing to where they'd use channeling, in Tibetan Buddhism. And then they started a strong process over their relationship to one particular deity, Dorje Chungden. And because of a past life relationship to Dorje Chungden, and Dorje Chungden was one of the deities that a channel would bring through, because it was the highest, entity, and that entity is supposedly not incarnated. So you got to channel him in order to talk to him. That's their belief. So one of those main channels was Dorje Chungden. And in the process, the Dalai Lama goes through, in his life, in this incarnation, he goes through a very strong cycle of regret of having been involved with killing Dorje Chungden and the demonic energy that he put into it to make manifest that death of a Buddha, of a very high being. How many demons, how much needed to support that in order to carry it out. Because the story goes that they tried enormous number of times to kill Dorje Chungden, and they couldn't do it because he had too much Holy Spirit. So he was always fighting it off or recover. Yeah. And they even threw him out of a window, recovered from that. I know the deal. It's happened to me 100 times, and I'm still here, So that's the thing. And if they're really going to kill you, you got to kind of tell them how to do it, which is what Dorji Chungden had to do. In the end, he had to tell them, you need to strangle me, and stick my scarf down my throat and strangle me, and I will die, but you can't stop. You got to continue strangling me till I'm totally dead. Yeah. And this is after they've tried so many times. Yeah. So what's he going to do? What are they going to, torture him, and live his life being tortured until he finally dies, So he makes it easier for them. Yeah. This is a compassionate thing. This is witnessed in the life of Buddha with the lions. It's witnessed with the life of Milarepa and the lady who came to kill him. It's witnessed in all my previous lives where, you got to do this. You've made a commitment with Satan, and, you must kill me, And so I always turn it around and say, well, I'll tell you how to do it. Or I'll drink the poison myself, Or I'll be the one who gets captured and I'll go on the cross. All these things are part and parcel of my personality. It's the things that I do. Yeah. And that process didn't go over well with the Dalai Lama. And so he became very adamant and angry and made it illegal for everybody to not practice Dorje Chungden. And that became part of opening a bigger door for demons to get in. Because that created a lot of fear, tons of fear in the hearts of all the Tibetans, and they lost faith. Yeah, because this is how they held it together, was by having faith with the lineage, holding the lineage of all the prayers that they can keep to hold the lineage together until it all comes back around. Hard times are over with. But he was taking out a big section of protectors. And you take away protectors in hard times, it's like makes it a lot harder. So he did that, and it made life a million times harder for all Tibetans. Yeah. Well, I've been working on that. That's why I tell everybody about that. I tell them the truth about the Dalai Lama, the truth about Dorje Chungden, the truth that this needs to stop, and it needs to be turned around to where it's okay now to accept the protector Dorje Chungden as one of the many protectors in Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. And, what's the chance of that happening? Yeah. And there's a man who's Sim Rinpoche, who's I've been communicating with and really trying to help in his process, because he's the number one Rinpoche that supported Dorje Chungden and the externalization of continued prayer and relationships of protection from Dorje Chungden. So this gets to a really big point where a lot of Drepung wants me to come back and enthrone me as the head of everything. And Ganden wants me to do that. And the senior teachers of both Ganden and Sarah Monastery are my students. They're my students. They're senior Rinpoches who are in their 30s now are my students, and I take care of their families. Yeah, and I'm their protector, and almost all the major Khamsins of all of Drepung sees me as the reincarnated protector. Whether you call me Dorje Chungden or what, I am Buddha Maitreya the protector. Yeah, and that's in all my declaration things that are given from all these people. So this has gotten to the Dalai Lama, and he's in Drepung, and in January, during a ceremony of all my group. Begins transmitting into the Dalai Lama and change his mind. Yeah. And over a 2-day period, his mind was changed. Yeah. He completely eliminated the ban of Dorje Chungden. And he says, it's perfectly safe to practice Dorje Chungden. It does no harm to me or to Tibet. This is what he said. Check this out. He said, Dorje Chungden does not harm him. Since it does not harm him, it does not harm the Tibetan cause, because the Dalai Lama is the upholder of the Tibetan cause. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said we can practice Dorje Chönden. His Holiness the Dalai Lama even said where you can go if you want to rely on Dorje Chönden. And he says you can go to my 2 monasteries. Yeah. He says when he tells the audience that there is monasteries adjacent to Ganden and Sera, the practice of Dorje Chönden, Shara Ganden Monastery and Serapon Monastery. Yeah. So this is in Drepung, a big community in Mungat. And this is every major university of Thompson's is, and Ganden and Sera are all in this large location in India. Yeah. And it's where I go. It's where I save all the Rinpoches. It's Lumbum who has sent me on a world tour, and it wasn't able to be further because the Dalai Lama didn't back it up. Yeah, he wouldn't do it. Yeah, and I still pushed, and I built the stupa, and I still pushed, and I keep going back to Nepal, and I go back to Tibet. And last time I was in Nepal, which was in October, yeah, and just prior to going there, the student, Sim Rinpoche, died. And he was battling the relationship of the Dalai Lama by doing pujas and collectively gathering all the masters of wisdom. He is a tuku of, I think he's 25 incarnations, and it goes back 2,500 years to the time of Buddha. Yeah, so this is like Naropa's group, yeah, and all the group that I come with. Yeah, so these are real clean lineage incarnates. So he held the light, for Dorje Chönden, for right practice of all the practitioners on all lineages, and even crossed over into better understanding the way the world is behaving right now, and all of that. He's a great guy, yeah. But his process was that this solar plex is very difficult. And I'm probably the one person on this planet that can, I absorb things through my solar plex at a rate you can't imagine. Yeah, and it blows my body up. And that's what happens to Sim Rinpoche. Yeah, he would gain 120 pounds. He would gain 50 pounds quickly. And he tried vegetarianism. He tried absolutely everything in order to control that, but he couldn't, because he was being attacked in his solar plex, and he couldn't. He had reverence toward the person that was attacking, and I didn't. And I've never put out a moment of reverence, in thinking that this person is who he says he is. I know who he is, I know where he comes from, and I know his origin, and I know how this is all going to work out, But the main thing was to get these Rinpoches to come to a higher level, and he did. So at that time, we went to Nepal, and the main place for his previous lives is Nepal. Yeah. So when I was there, the people of the Dorje Chönden Monastery, which took me in as one of the main teachers, from here on out, and that they were pretty clearly upset over the death of Sim Rinpoche, who was their number one teacher. Yeah. So I put myself in position I would take over this position, and you see him as your protector and teacher in that way. Take me in that position, and I will fulfill any needs that you have in everybody's case, whether Sim Rinpoche's monastery and or needs in their practices or your practices and your protection. From this day on, you're going to be protected, and they're just going, whoa, it's wild, because nobody likes this. We can't go outside, we want to help other people, but no one wants to treat us with any kind of goodness. And yet they are the holiest monastery of all in Nepal. They're the most ancient monastery, and the largest group of masters all come into that monastery in order to continue their lineage of transmission between masters. So to have this Dorje Chungden thing there and make it very difficult for people to walk into the building and associate with other masters for all these years, since 1995, yeah. So I pledged that I would end this. I will do everything in my power to end this. Yeah. So in less than 3 months, and I'm saying also I'm going to Drepung, and I'm going to be enthroned in Ganden, in Drepung, and all of that area. So, and I will officially make sure that everybody understands that Dorje Chungden is okay, perfectly safe to practice the relationship to Dorje Chungden. Yeah. And they're like, oh yes, this is fantastic, great news, and I leave, and just 2 months later, the end of this ban on Dorje Chungden begins. So now all the monasteries, all the people of Tibet, all the people of India, all the people who had all those horrible things go on, and now they can do their practice, they can carry on everything that gives them protection. I mean, this is a science. This Tibetan thing is a science. Yeah, it by protection, it aligns us to direct deities who have incarnated. Yeah, who are in the form of the deity when they incarnate. Yeah, and when they incarnate, they say things and they do things. So if we study these things, we become associated to the incarnation of deity. Yeah, that's a science. That's totally different than this Dark Lodge Bon scenario, where they actually take demons and they sacrifice the lives of babies. This is known in Tibetan Buddhism most commonly, is sacrificing the lives of babies, taking babies and putting them at an altar when a beginning of a building takes place, or a death of a famous person happens, or a new birth of a famous person. You take a newborn baby and you sacrifice it to that person. Yeah, it's very common in the Bon society of Tibetan Buddhism. So this is literally where the spiritual bullshit comes from. This is ancient stuff, goes way past Buddha, way before Buddha. These witches and warlocks have been doing what they do, and they've been doing it in the land of Shiva. Yeah, and that's the most, and they know they are defiling. They're doing things specifically to defile the land. Yeah, the embodiment of incarnations of the Lord, and anything to do with it, and its possibility of externalization and changing this world. So Padmasambhava comes and incarnates and says, Bon is over with. We do not practice Bon. I'm going to create a particular location in which we only practice Lamaism. And that's what I practice. I'm not a Tibetan Lama, but I practice Lamaism. Yeah, it's a science. Yeah, and it's not a some weird ceremonial science. It really requires extreme high mind, extreme clarity. You have to be willing to study masters with incredible humility, and you have to see your true self, because somewhere in there you exist. And you have to allow yourself to come into manifestation, not under some glorified form, but as a disciple, as a student. And you never have a self-recognition, but you have a realization of the masters. And the more one meditates in that particular way, your previous lives kind of come back in a meritorious frequency. And allows you to, if the master's back in the body, it allows you to retrack and locate that same teaching process, so you can recapitulate. Yeah. So this is a very rare thing, this science, Buddhism, real Buddhism. Yeah. So getting this to change, having the Dalai Lama change the way he did last January was a phenomenon you don't understand how big a phenomenon that is, how long this has been going on. Yeah. What a horrible effect this has had on the world, let alone Buddhism and Christianity and any other thing. Yeah, it really did make a big difference to your realization. Yeah, because that teacher now has become a student, and he was a false teacher. Now he's starting at a place where he's a humble student. And that has to happen in every case. All the witches and warlocks and everybody who practice all this weird shit have to go into a terrible scenario of doing things and saying things that are so wrong. And then they have to realize, oh my God, I have made a mistake. Because that is what he said that day. He said, I'm not just going to tell you that you can't do it anymore. I'm going to say I made a major, big mistake. And then he began explaining a whole list of where that mistake began. Yeah, and he was misinterpreting the whole process due to his personal relationship to the death of Dorji Chungden, and he hadn't worked it out. And it hit him. Yeah, he wasn't ready to deal with it. Yeah, and that's only at this time did he heal enough to come to that reality that he did play a part, and that is what caused him to do wrong now, and that's what caused him to do wrong then, and he's not going to continue doing wrong. And he says, I feel no danger, no ill effect coming to me, and yet I told you that you're going to go to hell, and this is a demon, and every ill effect will happen to you along the way of the rest of your life if you have any involvement. And I was totally wrong. Yeah, and that makes the biggest difference. Yeah, because I'm asking for the same thing for the Pope. I'm asking for the same thing for Trump. I'm asking for the same thing for every one of these people to be put in the position to where they must confess and see where they play a part in turning this thing into a left-hand spin. And then they have to play the part of actually turning it right back around. And then they close that door. And it's a big door. Millions of people follow Tibetan Buddhism. It was a very dark, evil door. Yeah? Even though it had all this potential, it still led you to the point of the false teacher. Yeah? And that could lead you to every dark person inside of Tibetan Buddhism instead of the light. Yeah? All right, so that's it for today on that one. I'll do our puja. So I'm going to do I invoke the alignment of the 7 rays of God, and that applies to the teachings that I'm giving. Yeah, it has to do with the 7 rays. It has to do with the healing of the nations, and the awakening of the rays. Yeah, and what that means and how that affects people, we do not know. I do, but humanity doesn't. Yeah, and where we get the blessings from healing people and the ability to give and have the power to receive and then give, and have that happening in the easiest way, is part of the process of the rays. Yeah? Each ray has a glamour to it, and if each ray can be turned back to the heart, and to the influence where its origin comes from. They're not separate rays. They actually come from one origin. Yeah, just like white light turns into 7 rays. Yeah, well, it all goes back to the point of white light. That's where the soul sits. Yeah, so we can't be going off on a singular ray. Yet we're born that way. Yeah, and if we are in a lower mind, we see prejudice, separation. Yeah, we are so ignorant. We do not know the difference of animal, a species, a thing, anything. Yeah, because we lack the sensitivity, and that telepathic sensitivity is the only thing we've got, and that's inside the rays. It's a natural communication system that happens, and it stems from the heart, and that influence gives us friendship, gives us the ability for an animal or another person or even a circumstance to be balanced, where nothing is taken advantage of and nothing is below, nothing is above. Everything is getting what it's supposed to be getting. Everything serves the purpose of existence, in a balanced way, which is pretty hard to do, but it happens with God. It's how God does it. And it happens in the most peculiar way because it looks like it's just coincidental. Yeah, because it's so fluid. But it's because the rays are individual, and they're in all things, and they're all attracted to love. Yeah, they all come from love. So if you are in that heart center, everything gets healed. Everything is suffering from separation, whether it be a dog, a cat, or a person, or place, or a thing, or a car. Yeah, the whole planet is suffering from lack of love. Yeah, so it's that energy, just that one pointed light, that then reflects out to all the rays, and that heals the nations. And none of the nations have the light. Yeah, so this is a ceremony of Christ sending his light to the nations, and he calls out the rays of each nation. That's magic. Yeah, England. Yeah, first ray, second ray, soul, personality. I invoke. Yeah, and each one is bringing about an invocation, evocation. And this is ceremonial magic. Yeah, but we ain't drinking blood. You know, we're not doing all those things because ceremonial magic is part of the human function. We just don't know it. That's why we can be seduced into doing it in the Dark Lodge, or even doing it in our daily life of astrology and numerology and tarot and all those things. Throw the salt over your shoulder, all these little things, yeah, because we're in a world of ceremony. This is magic. The whole thing is magic, yeah. You know, so we either apply ourselves in the magic as co-creators, yeah, and we do prayer, yeah. And I do all these prayers in order for us to stand up against these black magicians as magicians, yeah. So you go to war, and you're doing invocation, evocations. They're doing invocation, evocations, but we are counteracting those invocation, evocations. And this particular one closes the door to the ceremony of Satanism on earth, in all the nations. Not just in people in Hollywood or downtown Florida, you know, which is pretty heavy. Yeah, in Cuba it's even worse. Haiti, whew, it's intense. Yeah, you know, but all of these rays, if invoked through Christ, they create a shift in the consciousness of humanity completely, because there are all kinds of masters out there who have these rays and are willing to take on, just like this guy Sim Rinpoche. He takes on the Dalai Lama and everybody who would tell him, you're going to die, I hate you, you're evil, you're doing the wrong thing, you're doing everything the Dalai Lama tells you not to do. And he was right, because right after he died, the Dalai Lama gave in. So that was not a wasted life. Yeah? And it's that invocation and evocation that closes the door, because we're all together in this. And it's not about sacrificing your life, but I'm telling you, when you're in the sainthood of things, suffering is how you're going to get there. Does that make sense? You're not going to get there because you get a big paycheck. Yeah? Or you get patted on the back, or you're told that you did a good job. And it doesn't work. It doesn't happen, and it's not real. Your own self-esteem and your fearlessness is what gets you there. Yeah? So doing these invocations and evocations, it dispels the glamour of fear inside of the nations, inside of people. And it makes them less susceptible and much more capable of standing up and saying, you know, I don't want to be an actor. You know, I really don't want to be an actor at all. I think I'm going to go be a carpenter. I think I'll go make wood. You know, I think I'll go build a house. You know, go do something. Anything but be an actor. Anything but be a movie star. Anything, yeah, than want to be on the Grammys and live that life where you know everybody is satanic. Everybody you talk to, everybody you go to their house, you know that this is the very league of Satanism. It's in the healing of invocation, evocation, that allows the masses of those people to begin to wake up. Yeah, because it's through the healing of the nations, and no one knows that they're from all over the world. But when you heal the nations, the energy that's in seducing people is from the country that they originally came from. Yeah. And if that doesn't get healed, then they're always going to be weak wherever they're at. So they can be seduced anywhere. Yeah. Doesn't matter where you go. It still can have the same problem go on because it follows you. It carries with you. So all the nations have to be healed in order to release people from their past curse. Yeah, no matter how often they travel, no matter what they do to change their life, all of that is part of the land that we keep being born in, that we keep having a relationship with. Those rays are the biggest primary rays that move through our physical body, that make us who we are. Yeah. So unless those nations are healed, there's no way we get healed. Yeah. And one of the nations was Tibet. Yeah. So if I can heal Tibet, I can heal China. If I can heal China, I can heal England. Yeah. If I can heal England, I can heal Copenhagen. Yeah. You know, so it's just a matter of invocation, evocation in consistent ways that allows ceremonial magic to overthrow the ceremonial magic that's going on every day that you have no idea is happening. Yeah. And churches aren't making a difference. None of it's making a difference because this is a science. And I know the science that eliminates this dark lodge. Yeah. All right. So let's do this invocation. Okay, just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad to guide me into the right activity in the plan, to clarify and stimulate my mind, to transform and transmute my feelings and my emotions, to energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body, so there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. To this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. power. I invoke the sense of touch and the first ray as the finger of God. I invoke the sense of sight as the third ray, as the eye of God. I invoke the sense of taste as the sixth ray, as the desire of all the nations. Okay, take a deep breath. I invoke the sense of smell as the fourth ray, the beauty of revelation. I invoke the sense of intellect as the fifth ray, as the knowledge of God. I invoke the sense of intuition as the second ray, the understanding of God. Expressed through your personality. As the first ray of ideas, the mental body, the purpose, your life. The second ray of ideals, the astral body, and your quality. The third ray of idols, your physical body and your form. The fourth ray of the fourth kingdom, of humanity in balance. The fifth ray, the third kingdom, the animals. The sixth ray, the second kingdom, vegetables. Seventh ray, the first kingdom, minerals. I call upon the relationships of all the kingdoms to penetrate the personality of humanity and express its collective soul. The seventh ray and the fourth ray as the mineral kingdom. third ray and the sixth ray as the animal kingdom. The fourth ray and the fifth ray as the human kingdom. The fifth ray and the second ray as the egoic soul. The sixth ray and the third ray as planetary lives. The first ray and the seventh ray as solar lives. Penetrate the planet Earth, to bring forth the geomantic relationships of the soul, to integrate the egoic ray and the personality ray of each nation, and to express its true expression, to make manifest peace on Earth as one living body of God. I call upon India to bring forth its fourth ray of personality and to integrate its first ray of soul to manifest the hidden light. I invoke China to bring forth its third ray personality to integrate its egoic soul into its first ray, to manifest as the indication of the way. I invoke Germany to bring forth its first ray of personality, to integrate its egoic soul of fourth ray, to preserve the truth. I invoke France and its third ray personality to integrate its fifth ray of egoic soul to release the light. I invoke Great Britain and its first ray personality and its second ray egoic soul to bring forth its service. I invoke Italy and its fourth ray personality to integrate its sixth ray soul to carve the two paths. I invoke the United States and its sixth ray personality to integrate its second ray soul to light the way. I invoke Russia and its sixth ray personality to integrate its seventh ray soul to link the two ways. I invoke Australia and its fifth ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul and serve the lighted way. I invoke Spain and its seventh ray personality to integrate its sacred sixth ray soul to disperse the clouds. I invoke Brazil and its second ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul to hide the seed. I invoke the entity of this planet, the planetary logos, to incarnate the life and the beingness of this planet. I invoke the expression of the second ray force into both the personality and the egoic rays of the nation and the personality of the egoic ray of humanity, to fuse itself and its light into its healing process. I invoke the esoteric law of solar energy to make manifest the cosmic force of light, love, and peace. Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. So, what I try and point out is that the power behind the light, yeah, and I do all these invocations, and I do the dispelling of world glamour, and if you listen to that one, it's invoking the light, yeah, and being protected by the light, yeah, but you got to be in the light. Yeah, you can't be in a half light or kind of understand or maybe I kind of got it, something like that. It's a real application. It is a real effort. So I put the time into helping people to better understand lifestyle is the key to the light. Yeah, the ability to retain light is a meritorious process, and it's not something you could try and do all good things and get merit from that. Yeah, but it's in doing the right thing and being able to do those things and go through the fear of everything that keeps you from wanting to do those things. Yeah. Whether it be getting to a gym, you just don't like social things, it's too hard. It disturbs me. It's not a happy moment, and I'm being judged, and all these things. And they're all reasonable, good reasons to not do things, yeah? But that's all based on fear, So when you're healed, those things go away. And you find that life changes. Maybe back at this time when you were not in that scenario, not in a positive way, that you simply did not have the mind and the spirit and the mind and the emotions. You didn't have all those things working together for you. You had mainly the emotions. And the emotions had everything to do with your satisfaction, dissatisfaction or satisfaction, expectation or the meeting of that expectation, and how well you deal with that. Just emotional, physical, that's it. So, when it comes down to what I'm going to do for breakfast, well, you deal with it from an emotional, physical, not a mental, but emotional, physical, it'd be good if you went mental, but usually it's emotional, physical. So you're kind of like, well, I don't really need to eat breakfast. I could just have a cup of coffee, maybe have a piece of toast. I really don't need it because you're in an emotional, physical state. You're not going to make yourself a breakfast. You're not going to take the time to sit down and eat that breakfast. You're not going to take the time to clean up after that breakfast. So, hey, I can get past a whole lot of not doing and, be done just by, not having breakfast, And that's very emotional, physical. It has nothing to do with the fact that you should have a breakfast or that you've actually learned that, at 10:30 after I've had no breakfast, I have a headache and I'm tired and I really wish I had eaten. So now I need something bad. So fast food is out there for people like you who live in an emotional, physical state. Now, when we're in this emotional, physical state, we have the rays that are based on those emotional, physical states. And you have vehicles. You have an emotional vehicle, you have a physical vehicle, and you have a mental vehicle. Each one has a different ray. Maybe the same rays, but they are going to be, in their own ray. So if you're walking around living a life in your emotional body and your physical body and barely tapping into your mental body, because you're just going along with whatever your emotional body and physical body has as a habit, and that's it, including TV and everything, And a lot of times your emotional, physical body can't deal with TV. So what does it do? I don't eat breakfast. Make sense? I don't watch TV. I don't do these things because I'm so consumed personally in my emotions and my physical scenario. I haven't got time for this sort of stuff. And it's all provided in the world for our betterment. Not for, like really good food, organic food. All these opportunities are out there for us, but we need to have all three vehicles functioning so we take advantage of our culture. We take advantage of the world that we're in. And if we don't, we're fear-based and we're being taken advantage of. And we have no idea we can make a difference in that choice. Just a matter of whether or not we raise our consciousness up to include our mental body. So to do that, we have to change whatever we're doing in our life. Whatever we're doing. If you're not a person who likes to cook. You got to, because the only way you're going to find out that you're a really bad cook or a really good cook is by doing it. And if you're a bad cook, it means that you're very stuck in your emotional body, totally not even touching the physical body. You're just kind of like barely holding on to either one of them. And you're just making it through life. You're better off getting a hamburger or something like that, than trying to make it yourself. Because you're just going to live a disappointed life. Does that make sense? I can't fry an egg. I hate eating my food. I'm never going to do it again. I'll just open a can. And my choices of which can I buy super sucks. That's just as bad as me cooking. Does that make sense? Because there's no real interconnection of having spent a long time reading labels and using your mind and working your way to bring it up from the bottom up to the mind and make those decisions and, do these things in your lifestyle. Creating a lifestyle. But in most cases, we don't create a lifestyle because we live according to what mom said we're supposed to do. Or what dad said we're supposed to do, and how we're supposed to shine our shoes, and how we're supposed to wear a tie, and how the girls are supposed to wear dresses, and how you got to have nylons, and you better do this and do that. It's all just carried over without us ever really learning what it is we want to do that would make us a better, healthier, prettier person. Yeah. So we're trying to, follow these things without having the control over our emotional, physical body. Yeah. So it's the rays that actually changes those things. So when I do these invocations, I invoke all the kingdoms. I invoke, this is the ray of this mineral kingdom. This is the ray of this vegetable kingdom. This is the ray of animal kingdoms. This is the ray of the human kingdom. This is the ray of the kingdom of the soul. Yeah. So I invoke those things. Yeah. And even if you're not in your mind, or in your higher mind, or any of those things, this is happening for you. Yeah. So this invokes into these kingdoms so that if ever you do eat in the right way, in a prasadam, you get the blessings that I'm giving to all the kingdoms. Yeah. But if you don't live according to this way, then you're just in your emotional body and your physical body, and you're detached from the blessing of having a higher mind and higher understanding that, a good meal and all these good things that are good for you, you're not applying. So then you find, I got diabetes, I've got a weight problem, I've got this and that, I've got lethargy, I can't sleep well, all these things go on because, what we're here is an opportunity to learn, is our lifestyle. Yeah, so simplified lifestyle, healing lifestyle has everything to do with the rays. Yeah, so we can't really do prasadam until our solar plexus is cleared. And our solar plexus is overactive because that's what we're functioning. That's our habits in life. We get our habit from our mom. We get our habit from grandpa. We get our habits from our friends. We rarely build our own habits, because we're constantly under the threat of doing the right thing or the wrong thing because we want to fit in. So in this physical, emotional state, we're constantly building delusionary lifestyle that has nothing to do with ourselves. So we don't know what furniture we want. We don't know what a pan is and what's a good pan, what's a bad pan. We don't know if we should be cooking with oil or butter. We don't know if, what kind of salt is a good salt, a bad salt. Should I grind my pepper? Should I use whole pepper? Should it be fine grind? Should it be what? Now, most of these things you don't even go up against. Yeah. Because it's prasadam. And prasadam is the strongest thing for receiving the blessings that I'm giving. When I say I heal the rays and I'm healing the nations and I'm healing people, I'm using a science to do this. So then I say, okay, now we have to do prasadam. And everything in life is prasadam. Yeah? So that means we got to make sure that what we're eating is really healthy. The house that we're living in is sacred and healthy. And the lifestyle, the car that we have, the solar that we plug in, all these things become interconnected to our universality. They're objects of universal, that whether you're in India or Africa or Cuba, your lifestyle could be applied anywhere. Every person can pick up this common sense, losing all habits, and individuality of ridiculous cultures and belief systems, into this place where the rays are passing through you, and you no longer have prejudice or biases. And it's just rays passing through you, and they're able to get to your higher mind, they're able to get to your emotional body, they're able to get to your physical body through prasadam. Yeah? And then that heals your personality, because it has a ray, and your soul, and it has a ray. And you need to have the rays of Christ in order to have a reason for being here. Yeah? Each one of those rays give you reasoning. You have a mind in your toe. You have a mind in your intestine. You have your mind in your stomach. You have a mind in your eye. You have a mind in your ear. Your whole body is a brain. No matter, and they're different brains with different functions throughout the body. So if we don't apply this, we don't get whole brain. Yeah, we think it's all up here in these lobes, and it's not. It's all throughout the body. Yeah. So prasadam actually opens the rays to allow the rays to reach all the chakras and all the minor chakras, and we begin our life. Yeah. So until we have that science moving through us, which isn't a logical science, but it's receiving the blessings of the invocations and the science of evocation from the Lord. If you listen to the pujas, that's what's going on. Yeah, so none of this is, applied in happenstance and we all just get a better world for it. Yeah, this is a highly worked out, took me hundreds of thousands of years to pull this together and create an elemental configuration called life, and to bring you into this process of overthrowing evil, cosmic astral evil, evil that exists in every way. And right here in this little microcosm, macrocosm, we're going to knock it out the park. All right, enjoy.